Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme: 3 out and 1 in for Scotland ahead of the double header against Canada and Slovenia. Celtic 1 win away from the title, and Cathro defends Levine's role in the management structure. Yeah, just a few of the talking points on the programme. Of course, friendly international will dominate the first part of the programme because Scotland are playing Canada ahead of that crucial match against Slovenia on Sunday evening. So it doesn't look as if, Ruffy, there's going to be a huge turnout there at Easter Road on Wednesday.
No, I think it's a friendly game. It's a few days before the big game. I think everybody will want a ticket for that one. You know, it's a massive game. But at the end of the day, that maybe more turn up on the night, maybe pay as you go. But certainly it won't affect the players that get picked to play in that game, because anybody that is get picked has to have their eye on forcing their way into the big team. Whether that happens, we'll have to wait and see what his team is, but there certainly is maybe one or two who might squeeze in.
Just listening to Gordon earlier today, I don't think there's a real desire to play the exact same team against Canada that we'll take to the field against Slovenia.
No, I listened to what he said, and it didn't seem that way. You know, he was talking about some of the players who have hit games on Sunday, and he doesn't want them to have to maybe play again. Talking about obviously the Celtic players, for example, who had the game against Dundee, but I don't see there's a problem between Sunday and Wednesday about players being available again to play. Most players can play 3 games in a week, 7 days, 6 days, whatever it is, and it is like it's a Sunday. The next game's Sunday. It's not as if it's even Saturday.
Yeah.
So I don't see whether there's any problem with that. And I would have thought he maybe wanted to put out a team because the team's been changing from game to game, and I thought maybe he would look at how Slovenia play and think about maybe putting out a team to measure that sort of style of play against them in order to be ready for that, but it doesn't look like he's going to do that.
Yeah, 3 call-offs, Ruffy: Matt Phillips, Grant Hanley and James MacArthur. He's called up Liam Cooper from Leeds. But other than that, I mean, we were discussing, if you look at the newspaper headlines from this morning, it's certainly there's a real clamour for Stuart Armstrong when you have a look at the Daily Mail. Headstrong, this is obviously Rodgers talking about Armstrong being able to start for Scotland because he really has come to the forefront for Celtic and got the goal against Dundee as well.
Yeah, I think when you come to picking national teams, I think you should be picking people in form, you know, and he certainly is one of these that's on form, you know, and I think he should find a place for him. I know Gordon likes tried and trusted people with experience. It's going to be a massive night. It's going to be quite tense. You know, we all know we need to take something out of the game. But I think the boy's playing so well this year that I think he'll just start.
Yeah, and of course his manager, Brendan Rodgers, has been glowing in praise of the midfielder.
This inbuilt brain to score goals, you know, and all different types of goals. And the second goal, he finished off a move where we had, I think, about 5-6 players in the box lining up to score. So, yeah, big talent, and he's only gone one way, which is nice for Celtic and for Scotland. I've always believed myself that international football is about technique, speed, mobility, and a tactical awareness of the game to play it at a high level. And in those elements of the game, he's got naturally good technique. We've tried to play the game in a different way this year that hopefully he's benefited from tactically. And then his speed and mobility is there to see. So you've got all the tools to play at the top level of international football in a really quick game.
I'd like to see him Wednesday and Sunday, Gordon.
I do too. I think definitely deserves to be in. I think that players come through and you just look at them and you just think, you know, he's never had a cap so far, but Brendan Rodgers must take a lot of the credit for it because he's brought him on, a player who was more or less in the outskirts of things at Celtic last season. People saying, you know, he'd be moving on. He probably one of the ones that fans would have listed as would be out the door when Brendan Rodgers came in. But it's been totally different. I think he's been outstanding. He's both-footed as well, which is excellent to see. He can actually cross a ball in or shoot with either foot. He's good in the air. He scored a header. He's quick, as he mentioned there. Great ability in order to he can make challenges. He'll cause teams a lot of problems coming from a little deeper position. So I would definitely consider him for Sunday. Whether he plays against Canada as well, gets his debut there, might take the pressure off him to have to make his debut in the Slovenia game. So it may be better that he also comes on in the game or starts against Canada as well.
Yep, of course. Armstrong the first to admit that this season he really has progressed.
Playing Champions League was a great experience and against top quality players, and you learn a lot from big occasions like that. And playing in finals and big occasions is definitely only going to stand you in good stead. I think I'm a little bit older now and a little bit more experienced, especially as I said with the Champions League experience and the pressures of that, and the pressures of accepting the pressures of winning every week with Celtic and being happy with that. So definitely a learning season this season.
Okay, there might not be a huge crowd there, but I think there'll be a bigger crowd for Sunday, which is a must-win game, according to Gordon Strachan. Ruffy, are there enough different players who might be able to come in and freshen this squad up to make a difference for you?
Again, as I said with the first game on Wednesday, I would like to see Armstrong playing. I'd like to see Lee Griffiths getting a game as well. We could be getting out of that Slovenia game with half the Celtic team in it. If he picks the team that we think he's going to pick. So it'll be players run about them, because you've got Gordon, you've got Tierney, you've got Brown, you've got Armstrong, Forrest, and possibly Griffiths as well, So I don't. Gordon will know himself, which way he's going to go. I would like to see him scrapping the two sitting midfield players. I think one sitting midfield player and put somebody into a more attacking position, but I'm sure, me telling Gordon Strachan what to do, he'll know exactly what he's got to do on the night, but we need to play as many attacking players as possible.
It's two slightly different games because Canada are not a great side. They're struggling a bit in their campaign as it is, and the American season isn't long started too, so the players are just coming into the season, the ones that do play in the States and all that sort of thing. But I think that, it might go with a more attacking formation against Canada than they will against Slovenia, because Slovenia are better quality. That's a game that's going to be tight, and we're going to have to be good on the day and take our chances when they come along.
Yeah, okay, from international football, let's switch our attention to the Premiership, and on the evidence of the weekend's football, quite a lot to talk about. Celtic get the win against Dundee. The unbeaten run continues. They're now just one win away from the title. Brendan Rodgers admits he didn't expect to have it all wrapped up so early.
We never expected to maybe win it as early as we did, or we can, sorry, I should say. We've done our best in every single game, and that is, an immense amount of credit you have to give to the players for this focus and mentality that they've had in their work, and in games like today that they can see through and win. So, but no, we never take it for granted. We're never complacent with it. We just have to, like I say, we have to win it and earn it.
Okay, so Celtic looking for the title and hoping to continue that unbeaten run all the way to the end of the season. As for Dundee, Paul Hartley says, he'll do everything in his power with the squad to try and make it into the top six.
The game was, we've got 4 games before the split. We're going to have a right go. We've got 12 points to play for. If we can get in the top 6, great. If we don't, the next 5 games is about us being safe and making sure we're secure for next year.
Well, Dundee are definitely safe, Ruffy, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure he would want to be out of that bottom 6. I think everybody that now thinks they're going to be in that bottom 6 is going to be in for a torrid time for the 5 games that they're going to be playing. So I think it's really important you try and push yourself out of that position, because it's very, very tense. And as we see at the table, it doesn't matter who's in that bottom 6. You could still go at any time if you don't take any points out of these 5 games.
I don't think they're completely safe yet, Peter. I think that they're looking as if they could do it. Heading for the top 6 is their aim, but they're 6 points clear of bottom spot. So at this stage of the season, you would still have to say, the way the games have been going, that they're not completely out of it.
Yeah, well, I'll bow to your mathematical equation, but what I would say is when you look at the rest of the sides, the way they're playing, and on the evidence of what I'm watching with Dundee, I don't see them being involved, do you?
I don't think they will be, but as I say, it's not completely... they're not completely clear yet. It's still, it depends how teams pick up a bit of form. Hamilton are not in the best of form. Ross County have been in a bad run too, and Dundee have got the kind of players where I thought they played well against Celtic to a certain degree in that game. But as I say, until they rack up the points, then you have to say that they're still not clear yet.
Yep, okay. Coming up in the next part of the programme, Hearts, Hibs, Rangers, Motherwell, St Johnstone, all to discuss. And of course, St Johnstone almost certainly in the top 6, barring a mathematical collapse that even Gordon Smith wouldn't suggest. And with St Johnstone in mind, Liam Craig got himself a double at the weekend, and he's closing in on a record that one particular St Johnstone player holds since the Premiership started, 75. Paul Wright still with the record since St Johnstone have played in the top flight all the way back to since 1975. Of course, it's been under various guises since then. I think you were... Who were you playing for? 75, Gordon?
75 Kilmarnock.
Yeah.
I was in the Kilmarnock team. I was there. I got in the first team in 72 and I left Kilmarnock in 77.
77. So, Paul Wright, didn't get that though, Ruffy. I think you went through a few St Johnstone players. We'll talk about St Johnstone in just a moment, but Aberdeen are ahead of Rangers. I've been conducting a poll, Ruffy, on whether anyone thinks Rangers can catch them. Do you think they can catch Aberdeen in second place?
Yeah, I think they do. I think
Yeah.
as long as there's points in the bag there that you can get. And I mean, I know Aberdeen won 2-0 at the weekend there, but until they got the second goal, you know, I thought Hearts had a few chances. Wee boy Nicholson had a couple of chances that he missed. But after that, I think they were the better side. But no, I think Rangers will get a wee lift. It depends on the next game that Rangers have got. Obviously, it's hard to judge against the Hamilton at home. So it depends on Rangers for me. If they were to go on a run, yeah, I think they could.
Yeah, I've made a huge blunder when I asked you questions. I really said, do you think Rangers will catch Aberdeen and pip them to second place? Sorry.
No.
And I must apologise to each and every one of our viewers there for wasting 60 seconds of your time listening to Ruffy blithering there about it. Nevertheless, Rangers won comfortably 4-0 against Hamilton Accies.
Yeah.
One of the headlines in the papers just left me more than a little bemused, you know, when they suggested Pedro Caixinha, you know, was a hero for Rangers and masterminding this rout of Hamilton Accies.
Yes.
I'm thinking, wow, that's not a bad accolade after game one against a team that's been trounced 6-0 by them 2 weeks before.
Yeah, well, that's Graham Murty must have masterminded that as well, even better. But no, I think it was obviously they were just trying to get a bit of positivity to it because he's come in with a bit of positivity and got a good result, good performance as well. A lot of the Rangers fans were also very happy in terms of the amount of the work rate of the players and everything, and that generally does happen with a new manager. If they feel he's got the strength there and the board's backing, then the players will realise they have to do the business.
There's that key phrase that you mentioned again there, with the board's backing, which I think will be the key element for Pedro Caixinha. He'll adopt a style for the players that he has at the moment. He's going to bring them in 6 days a week to train. That's something they're going to feel quickly as they head towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I'll be hoping he can squeeze a wee bit out of some of the players that are there. You know, that a new manager tends to do that, you know, but I think the Rangers supporters know themselves. It's what's going to happen when the season's finished. You know, they'll be just waiting to see what kind of player he's going to identify, how much is that player going to be and where they're going to come from. You know, I think that's the exciting thing from a Rangers point of view. But again, as we keep talking about it, it's all about money. And I'm sure he's had meetings with the board and they'll know exactly how they have to close the gap.
What he might be looking for, though, is if he can get more out of the current group of players, Ruffy, it's like Brendan Rodgers has done that. We spoke earlier on, but Stuart Armstrong, a different player. And that might be what he can do. If he does that, then it reduces the amount of players that are actually required then, because they'll say this player's playing better, this one. And that's then you gauge that, and it's only at the end of the season really you'll be looking at it and saying, here's where we need to make the changes, here's where the players have to be brought in.
Yeah, I should be talking about the positivity of Aberdeen still maintaining this run. They've created a bit of record with 9 consecutive home wins, but all the talk has been about Hearts after this one because of Craig Levein chatting with John Daly. John Daly goes down trackside. I mean, one pundit suggested that Hearts need to explain the structure of their management and what's going on between Levein and Ian Cathro. I don't think they have to explain anything.
No, they don't. But I mean, the thing about it is, if people don't realise what the relationship is, this is going to come up more and more. But I know
If they're losing.
I know. Yeah. Well, only when they're losing. If you're winning, nobody says anything about it. If they won on Saturday, this would never have been brought up.
Yeah.
It would have been immaterial, right? But it's because they lost the game, it's had a few bad results, and then all of a sudden they say, "Wait a minute, here is Craig Levein running the whole show here."
Yeah.
The relationship. We spoke about it on Saturday in our show, and we just said that might be just the way that he's quite happy to say, I've got somebody in the stand who's managed at the highest level, knows the game. If he sees anything that can be of use to me, any help to me because I'm down at ground level,
Yeah.
I don't mind hearing that. That's perfectly acceptable and logical relationship, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he has to. Although he has come out and said it, and he explained the fact that he has to look towards experienced people and try and take a collective of ideas. Whether he implements them is down to the manager himself. The only thing that needs to be explained, if they're losing all the time and eventually Cathro gets the bullet, then why isn't Levein going with him?
Yeah, some people will question. I don't have a problem with it either. On the 90 minutes of the game, the problem I would have with it if he then enters the dressing room after the game, you know, if Cathro
Well, he's been in the dressing room, Ruffy.
Yeah, but I know, but that's where I see the problem occurring, because if Cathro's in there and he's got his 11 players and he's actively going through them all, and then Craig Levein comes in and starts going through them all, then players start saying, you know, who's the coach here?
Yeah.
You know, that's just players being players. But I mean, we don't know that's happening. All I'm saying is, if that was the case, that he
Well, the
he
players
was
need
coming
it
in.
explained. That's one thing. You don't have to go public on it.
Yeah.
But I think the players would certainly have to realise the relationship, so that they're not the ones that are going, wait a minute here, why are you coming in? Because I've seen
They'll
it
see it
has
as they've been
happened.
undermining
Yes.
what
Yeah.
that's the main thing of if
I
it was
yes.
happening.
I remember stories coming out about even at times where the chairman of the football club has come down and said things
Well, that
after a
still
game.
happens.
It probably does, but the players react to that. They don't like that.
Yeah. Okay, let's sing the praises of Tommy Wright at St Johnstone. We'll finish in the top 6 yet again, and the Saints manager's been talking about that this morning.
Well, a good season for us, you know, barring a absolute run of freak results. We've guaranteed top 6. I think Kilmarnock would have to win every game, you know, to get the 12 points to get above us. So, really pleased with that, and the performance was good on Saturday.
Yeah, I think they deserve tremendous credit. Again, you know, Hugh McDonald continually singing his praises at the weekend, saying if it wasn't for, you know, a Brendan Rodgers who clearly pick up the award, Tommy Wright would be up there surely.
Definitely. In terms, I mean, it's doing the job he's doing with the resources he's got is a tremendous job, and to get them into the top 6, and at the moment he's got them into 4th place as well, when most people would have said, you know, 5th was our best opportunity, because you've got the 4 big clubs, Celtic, Rangers, Hearts and Aberdeen are there,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they've overtaken Hearts too, so you've got to give them a tremendous amount of credit.
It's got to be the first time, Ruffy, in a Saturday programme our treble was completely and utterly obliterated. Only a fool would have put in the treble Falkirk Morton, Ruffy, because clearly the championship at the weekend was just one of those coupon busters right across the board. St Mirren got a great win down at Queen of the South, and then you're looking at Dumbarton, you know, getting a point off Hibs. They slipped up. Wraith beat Dundee United, and of course Morton got that win at Falkirk.
And Ayr won at Dunfermline.
And Ayr won at Dunfermline,
And you're talking about the St Johnstone manager for a player of the year. What about Jim Duffy?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he comes into that category as well. You know, we keep hearing about budgets, resources, and certainly he'll have nowhere near what the most of the teams are in that division. So for what he's done this year is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, but it's absolutely incredible in that division at the bottom end, though. If you're Jack Ross, you're sitting there saying to yourself, what a good win that was, and then you hear the results elsewhere and you think, wow.
Yeah, what you're thinking is Jack Ross is just as well we got that good win.
Yeah.
Because at one stage, I mean, it was so funny looking at how things were going on Saturday, and it was great for our game to see that. But with the four teams in the bottom four bottom teams all leading, and the only one that lost out was Dumbarton when Hibs came back and got the draw. But the other three won, you know, so you're looking at thinking there's a real battle going on there for relegation and even the playoff place, and you can't say for sure who's going to be there.
Yeah, just a little footnote before we finish. We were all joking on Saturday that wouldn't it be amazing if Arsene Wenger comes out in a press conference and goes, "Look, lads, I know we lost again, but I'm staying." Yeah. It's starting to look that way, Ruffy.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a mind of his own, you know, and if I think we all agree that he should move on, but I've said it on numerous occasions. I hope it's on his terms and not being pushed out the door, no banners, no protests, you know. But I think he's got to say it himself, you know,
Yeah.
I've got to go.
Well, to be honest with you, there's only so many planes you can get up in the air with personal messages just to try and influence his decision. But Arsene Wenger, will he stay or will he go? Quite a few Gunners fans have got their own opinion on that. Thanks to Gordon Smith for joining us here on the Monday night alongside Alan Rough. Do join us tomorrow as we continue our look in closer detail at Scotland's friendly coming up against Canada, and then we'll look towards Slovenia and that must-win game. So from Gordon, Ruffy and myself, thanks for watching. Join us tomorrow at 7 if you can.